Part 1, The Impossible Landing. My name is Detective Michael Torres, and I've been investigating aviation incidents for the Federal Aviation Authority for 15 years. I've seen plane crashes, hijackings, mechanical failures, every nightmare scenario you can imagine at 30,000 feet. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened with Transatlantic Flight 227. It started on a Tuesday morning when my phone rang at 6:47 a.m. I was already awake, going through my morning routine, when Captain Sarah Mitchell from FAA Command called me with a trembling voice I'd never heard from her before. "Michael, we have a situation. Flight 227 from New York to London just landed at JFK." "Okay," I said, confused. "Why is that a situation? Did they have an emergency?" "You don't understand. The flight disappeared from radar 3 hours ago. We thought it crashed into the Atlantic. We had search and rescue teams deployed, we notified families, we had international incident protocols activated. And then, 20 minutes ago, it just appeared on radar again and requested permission to land. Like nothing happened." I grabbed my jacket and badge. "I'm on my way. Don't let anyone leave that plane." The drive to JFK took 40 minutes through morning traffic that felt like hours. My mind was racing with possibilities. Radar malfunction? Navigation system failure? But Captain Mitchell had said the plane disappeared, not just lost contact, disappeared. That meant every radar system, every tracking satellite, every monitoring station had lost the aircraft simultaneously. When I arrived at the airport, the scene was chaos. Emergency vehicles surrounded Gate 23, their lights flashing in the early morning darkness. News helicopters circled overhead, somehow the media had already gotten wind of the story. Airport security had cordoned off the entire terminal, and hundreds of passengers from other flights were being held back, their phones out, recording everything. I flashed my badge to get through the security perimeter and found Captain Mitchell standing on the tarmac, staring at Flight 227 like it was a ghost ship. The Boeing 777 sat there perfectly normal, engines cooling, no visible damage, passengers visible through the windows. "Status report," I demanded. Mitchell handed me a tablet showing radar data. At 3:42 a.m., Flight 227 was cruising at 38,000 feet, approximately 400 miles east of the coast. All systems normal, regular communication with air traffic control. Then, at 3:43 a.m., it vanished. Every tracking system, military, civilian, satellite, lost it completely. Not a distress call, not a single ping from the emergency beacon, nothing. And then? 6:31 a.m., it reappeared on radar, requesting landing clearance. Same altitude, same heading, but now only 50 miles from JFK. The pilot, Captain Robert Chen, sounded completely normal. When we asked him where he'd been, he said, "What do you mean?" "We've been in continuous contact." "Michael," according to his flight recorder, no time passed. His instruments show a normal 5-hour flight from New York to the current position. But we lost them for 3 hours. I stared at the plane, my investigator instinct screaming that something was deeply wrong. "Have they deplaned?" "Not yet. We told them there's a maintenance issue, kept them on board. All 187 passengers and 12 crew members are still inside." "Good. I want to interview everyone before they leave. Starting with the pilots." I headed toward the boarding stairs, but Mitchell grabbed my arm. "Michael, there's something else. The passengers, we've been monitoring them through the windows. None of them seem distressed or confused. They're just sitting there, waiting patiently. No one's demanding answers, no one's upset about the delay. It's like they don't know anything unusual happened." That sent a chill down my spine. Nearly 200 people had just experienced 3 missing hours, and none of them realized it. I climbed the stairs and entered the aircraft. The scene inside was surreal, passengers sat calmly in their seats, some reading magazines, others dozing, a few checking their phones. The cabin crew stood in the galley, looking tired but not alarmed. Everything appeared completely, unsettlingly normal. I approached the cockpit and knocked. "Captain Chen? I'm Detective Michael Torres, FAA. I need to speak with you." The cockpit door opened, and Captain Chen stepped out, a man in his 50s with silver hair and the calm demeanor of someone who'd flown thousands of hours. "Detective? Is there a problem with the maintenance check? My passengers are getting restless. Captain, I need you to tell me everything that happened during your flight. Every detail, from takeoff to landing." He looked puzzled. "It was a routine flight. We took off from JFK at 1:15 a.m., reached cruising altitude by 2 a.m., had smooth weather the entire route. My co-pilot and I maintained regular communication with air traffic control. We're currently 3 hours into a 7-hour flight to London, but you diverted us back to JFK. That's all I know. Captain, what time do you think it is right now?" He checked his watch. 4:47 a.m. "Why?" I showed him my phone. "It's 7:47 a.m. You've been in the air for over 6 hours, not 3. And you weren't diverted, you requested landing clearance yourself 40 minutes ago." The color drained from his face. He looked at his watch again, then at the cockpit instruments, then back at me. "That's impossible. Our flight systems would show." He rushed back into the cockpit, and I heard him and his co-pilot arguing over the readings. I turned to face the cabin full of passengers, all of them unaware that they'd just lived through an impossible event. Somewhere on this plane was an explanation for what happened. Or perhaps, somewhere on this plane, was someone who knew exactly what happened and why. As I began to plan my interviews, a flight attendant approached me nervously. "Detective? There's something strange. One of our passengers, seat 14A, he's been acting odd since we landed. Keeps checking his phone like he's looking for something, and he seems confused about where we are. When I told him we landed at JFK, he looked shocked. Said we were supposed to be landing in London." "Show me." She led me down the aisle to row 14. Seat 14A was occupied by a man in his 30s, well dressed in a business suit, with dark hair and an expression of barely concealed panic. His hands shook as he scrolled through his phone, his eyes darting around the cabin like he was searching for something, or someone. "Excuse me, sir," I said, showing my badge. "I'm Detective Torres. I need to ask you some questions." He looked up at me, and I saw it in his eyes, recognition, fear, and something else. Something that told me this man knew more than he was saying. "I want a lawyer," he said immediately. "I'm not answering any questions without a lawyer present." And just like that, I knew. This wasn't just a missing time incident. This was a crime scene. And I had just found my first suspect. Part 2, the passenger interviews. I instructed the cabin crew to keep everyone calm while I set up a makeshift interview area in the first-class cabin. Captain Mitchell had arranged for FBI and Homeland Security to join us. This was rapidly becoming more than just an FAA investigation. If someone on this plane had caused it to disappear from radar for 3 hours, we were potentially dealing with terrorism, hijacking, or something even more bizarre. The man in 14A refused to say anything more without his lawyer, so I had him escorted off the plane into federal custody. His name, according to the passenger manifest, was David Reeves, a software engineer from Boston traveling to London for a tech conference. No criminal record, no red flags in his background. But his immediate request for a lawyer and his visible panic told me he was involved somehow. I began interviewing the passengers systematically, starting from the front of the plane. The first 15 interviews followed the same disturbing pattern. No one remembered anything unusual. They all recalled a normal flight, taking off at 1:15 a.m., having dinner service, watching movies or sleeping, and then being told they were landing due to maintenance issues. When I told them about the missing 3 hours, they looked at me like I was crazy. Mrs. Patricia Henderson, a retired teacher in seat 3B, actually laughed. "Detective, I've been awake the whole flight reading my book. I can account for every minute. Nothing strange happened at all." "What time do you think it is right now?" I asked her. She checked her phone. "My phone says 7:52 a.m., but that must be wrong. It should be around 4:50 a.m. Probably didn't switch time zones properly." "Mrs. Henderson, have you felt sleepy at all during the flight? Any gaps in your memory?" "No, I told you, I've been reading the entire time. I'm on chapter 32 of my mystery novel. Started it after dinner service, been reading continuously since then." I made a note. Either she was lying or something had happened that made her perceive time differently. But how could that affect nearly 200 people simultaneously? The interviews continued. A businessman in seat 7D, a college student in 12F, a family of 4 in rows 18 and 19, all told the same story. Normal flight, no missing time, no strange occurrences. The consistency was almost more disturbing than if they'd all reported different experiences. Then I reached row 23, and everything changed. The passenger in 23C was a woman in her late 20s named Dr. Sarah Chen, a neuroscientist from MIT. Unlike the others, she looked troubled when I approached her. "Dr. Chen, I'm Detective Torres. I need to ask you about your flight experience." She bit her lip, hesitating. "Detective, I think something happened to me. To all of us. But I don't know what." Finally, someone who sensed something was wrong. I sat down in the empty seat beside her. "Tell me everything." I boarded the plane normally, took my seat. "I remember dinner service, I remember starting to watch a movie. And then." She paused, struggling to find words. "It's like there's a gap. Not a gap where I fell asleep, I know what that feels like. This is different. It's like frames missing from a film. One moment I'm watching my movie, the next moment I'm sitting here, and the movie's over, but I don't remember watching the ending. Did anyone else around you notice anything?" I asked the woman next to me. She gestured to seat 23B, which was empty now, the passenger already interviewed and released to the terminal. She said she didn't notice anything strange. "But detective, I'm a neuroscientist. I study memory and perception. What I experienced wasn't normal sleep or distraction. It was like my memory was edited. This was the break I needed." "Dr. Chen, is it possible that everyone on this plane experienced the same thing but doesn't realize it?" "It's possible. If something affected our short-term memory formation during those 3 hours, we might not realize the time had passed. Our brains would fill in the gaps automatically, creating false memories to maintain continuity. We'd swear nothing happened because, to our conscious minds, nothing did. What could cause that? Drugs, electromagnetic interference, extreme stress, hypnosis, lots of things could theoretically affect memory formation. But to affect this many people simultaneously and this precisely? I've never heard of anything like it." I thanked Dr. Chen and continued my interviews with renewed focus. Now I was looking for any small sign that others had experienced these missing frames. And I found them, little inconsistencies that passengers dismissed as confusion or tiredness. A man who couldn't remember finishing his meal. A woman whose phone showed photos she didn't remember taking. A child who had been drawing and couldn't remember completing his picture. By the time I finished all 187 passenger interviews, a pattern had emerged. At approximately 3:43 a.m., the exact moment the plane disappeared from radar, something had happened to everyone on board. Their memories from that point forward were compromised, edited, or completely false. But there were anomalies. David Reeves in 14A had clearly remembered something was wrong. And there were 3 other passengers who had shown signs of awareness, a nervous businessman who kept checking his watch and muttering about wrong time, an elderly woman who insisted her medication schedule was off, and a teenage boy who claimed his game console showed playtime he didn't remember. I had these 4 passengers, including Reeves, separated for intensive questioning. If anyone could tell me what really happened during those 3 hours, it would be them. The FBI agent working with me, Agent Lisa Rodriguez, pulled me aside as we prepared for the next round of interviews. "Torres, I just got the preliminary analysis from the flight data recorder. You're not going to believe this." She showed me her tablet. The black box data showed a completely normal flight, continuous recording from takeoff through landing, with no gaps or anomalies. According to the official data, the plane had never disappeared at all. "But that's impossible," I said. "We have radar data showing." "I know. Either the radar systems malfunctioned across multiple agencies and countries simultaneously, or this flight data was tampered with. And if it was tampered with, we're dealing with someone who has extremely sophisticated technical capabilities." David Reeves was a software engineer. Coincidence? "Get me everything on Reeves," I ordered. "Employment history, bank records, travel patterns, online activity. I want to know who he works for and what he's capable of." As Rodriguez left to coordinate with her team, Captain Chen approached me, his face pale. "Detective, I need to show you something from the cockpit. The navigation computer has logged coordinates that don't match our flight path." "What do you mean?" "According to this data, at 3:43 a.m., we changed course. Flew north for approximately 3 hours, then returned to our original trajectory. But I have no memory of making that course change, and it's not in any of my manual logs. It's like the plane flew itself." "Where did you go? What are those coordinates?" He pulled up a map. "Middle of nowhere. Empty ocean, no landmarks, no shipping lanes. Just nothing. Why would we fly there?" I stared at the coordinates, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. This wasn't just about missing time anymore. This plane had gone somewhere, done something, and then returned, with everyone on board having their memories wiped clean. Everyone except 4 people who somehow remembered fragments of the truth. And one of those 4 people had immediately asked for a lawyer. Part 3: The Software Engineer's Secret. David Reeves sat in the interrogation room at the federal building, his lawyer beside him, an expensive Manhattan attorney who'd arrived within an hour of Reeves' request. That alone told me something. Either Reeves was very wealthy, very guilty, or very prepared for this exact situation. I entered the room with Agent Rodriguez, carrying a folder thick with background information we'd compiled in the last 3 hours. Reeves watched us with calculating eyes, his earlier panic replaced by careful control. "Mr. Reeves," I began, sitting across from him. "Thank you for your patience. I know this has been a stressful morning." His lawyer, Marcus Klein, interrupted immediately. "My client is cooperating voluntarily. He's committed no crime and is under no obligation to answer your questions. We're here as a courtesy." "Of course," I said smoothly. "I just want to understand what Mr. Reeves experienced during the flight. That's all." Klein nodded to Reeves, who spoke carefully. "I boarded Flight 227 in New York, headed to London for a tech conference. Everything seemed normal until," he paused, choosing his words. "Until I realized we'd landed back in New York. That confused me because my phone showed more time had passed than I remembered." "What do you remember about the flight?" "Boarding, takeoff, meal service. I worked on my laptop for a while, then I don't remember clearly. Next thing I knew, we were landing. You asked for a lawyer immediately when I approached you. Why?" Reeves glanced at Klein, who nodded. "Because I know how these situations work, detective. Unexplained incident on a plane, authorities looking for someone to blame. I've seen enough news stories to know that talking without legal counsel is foolish. It was a reasonable answer, but something about his delivery felt rehearsed. I opened my folder. Mr. Reeves, you're a senior software engineer at Quantum Dynamics, a company that specializes in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Is that correct? Yes. And Quantum Dynamics has contracts with the Department of Defense, specifically working on autonomous systems and cognitive technologies. His expression hardened slightly. That's classified information, detective. I can't discuss my work. I'm not asking about classified projects. I'm asking about your expertise. You work with AI systems that can process and manipulate large amounts of data, correct? Among other things, yes. Agent Rodriguez leaned forward. Mr. Reeves, did you bring any electronic devices on the flight? Laptop, tablet, specialized equipment? Just my laptop and phone. Standard business equipment. We'd like to examine those devices. Klein interjected. Do you have a warrant? We can get one. Then get one. Until then, my client's personal property remains private. I shifted tactics. Mr. Reeves, have you ever heard of Project Aurora? For just a moment, his mask slipped. His eyes widened fractionally, a muscle in his jaw twitched. Then he recovered. No. What is it? You tell me. Because when we ran your name through federal databases, it flagged a classified file with that project name attached to it. Klein stood up. This interview is over. You're fishing, detective, and you're getting into areas that could compromise national security. My client has been cooperative, but we're leaving now unless you're prepared to charge him with something. They left, and I cursed under my breath. Rodriguez looked at me. Project Aurora? I made it up. But his reaction was real. He knows something about what happened on that plane, and it's connected to his work somehow. My phone rang. It was one of our tech analysts. Detective Torres? We finished analyzing the passenger's electronic devices. You need to see this. 20 minutes later, I was in the tech lab staring at screens full of data. The analyst, a young woman named Jennifer Park, pointed to various readouts. We found something strange on multiple passengers' devices. At exactly 3:43 a.m., every phone, tablet, and laptop on that plane received the same data packet. What kind of data packet? That's the weird part. It's encrypted with military-grade security. We can't crack it without more time and resources. But we can see the metadata. The packet was transmitted wirelessly, originated from somewhere on the plane itself, and simultaneously interfaced with every device in range. Could it have affected the passengers' memories? Jennifer looked skeptical. Not directly. But if the packet contained specific frequencies or patterns, and the devices played them as audio or displayed them as light patterns, it could potentially induce a hypnotic or dissociative state. There's research on using technology to influence cognition, but nothing this sophisticated that I've heard of. Could someone create such a packet? Someone with very advanced knowledge of neuroscience, software engineering, and signal processing? Maybe. It would require expertise in multiple fields and access to restricted research. Like someone from Quantum Dynamics working on cognitive technologies for the military. I called Captain Mitchell. I need the passenger manifest cross-referenced with any government watch lists, defense contractors, and classified project personnel. And I want security footage from the airport showing who boarded that plane and what they brought with them. While waiting for results, I interviewed the other 3 passengers who had shown awareness of the missing time. The nervous businessman, Thomas Wright, worked in finance and had no obvious connection to technology or government work. The elderly woman, Margaret Foster, was a retired librarian. The teenage boy, Kyle Martinez, was on his way to visit his grandmother in London. None of them seemed like they could be involved in whatever Reeves was hiding. But they all had one thing in common: they had been using electronic devices when the plane disappeared from radar. Thomas had been working on spreadsheets on his laptop. Margaret had been reading on her Kindle. Kyle had been playing a game on his console. Dr. Chen's theory about memory disruption suddenly made more sense. If every electronic device on the plane had been hijacked to broadcast some kind of signal, anyone not using a device at that moment might have been less affected. That would explain why Reeves, who had been working on his laptop, had realized something was wrong. But it raised an even bigger question: why? What was so important that someone would use cutting-edge technology to make an entire plane disappear for 3 hours? Captain Mitchell called back. "Torres, we found something. 2 of the passengers on that flight have security clearances. One is David Reeves, which you already know. The other is Dr. Amanda Foster, a physicist working at Lincoln Laboratory on classified projects. Where is Dr. Foster now? We released her with the other passengers." "She's at," Mitchell paused. "Torres, we just tried to contact her for follow-up questions. She's not at the hotel she listed as her destination. In fact, the hotel says she never checked in. Get me her photo and last known location. Now." This wasn't just about one rogue engineer anymore. This was a conspiracy involving multiple passengers, advanced technology, and classified government projects. And somewhere in the middle of it all was the answer to where Flight 227 had really gone during those 3 missing hours. Part 4: The Physicist Disappears. Dr. Amanda Foster's face stared back at me from my tablet screen. Early 40s, auburn hair, sharp intelligent eyes behind wireframe glasses. Her credentials were impressive: PhD in quantum physics from MIT, 15 years at Lincoln Laboratory working on projects so classified that even my FAA clearance couldn't access the details. The file simply listed her specialty as Advanced Propulsion Systems and Field Manipulation. How does a physicist end up on a commercial flight that disappears from radar? Agent Rodriguez asked, studying the same photo. "Maybe she doesn't end up on it by accident," I replied. "Maybe she's there deliberately." We discovered that Dr. Foster had booked her ticket only 3 days before the flight, paying cash at the airport counter, unusual for someone with her security clearance and salary. No checked luggage, just a carry-on bag. And according to the manifest, her seat assignment was 14B. Right next to David Reeves in 14A. "That can't be coincidence," Rodriguez said. "No, it can't. Get me the airport security footage for the departure gate. I want to see if they interacted before boarding." While Rodriguez coordinated with airport security, I reviewed Dr. Foster's interview from earlier. I'd spoken to her briefly with all the other passengers, and she'd seemed perfectly calm, reporting nothing unusual about the flight. But now, reviewing the transcript, I noticed something I'd missed before. When I'd asked her occupation, she'd said consultant rather than physicist. When I'd asked her destination, she'd said business meeting rather than providing specifics. She'd been deliberately vague, and I'd been too focused on getting through all the interviews to press her for details. My phone rang. It was Jennifer Park from the tech lab. "Detective, we've been analyzing the data packet that hit all the devices on the plane. We found something. The encryption has a signature, a specific mathematical pattern in how it's structured. We cross-referenced it with our database of known encryption methods. And it matches a proprietary system developed by DARPA 3 years ago for secure military communications. This encryption shouldn't exist outside of classified government systems. Could it have been stolen? Possibly. Or someone with authorized access leaked it. Either way, whoever created that data packet had access to top-secret cryptographic technology. Both Foster and Reeves had security clearances. Both worked on classified projects. Both sat next to each other on a plane that mysteriously disappeared for 3 hours. Jennifer, can you trace where the packet originated from on the plane? Which device transmitted it? We're working on that. The metadata shows it was broadcast from somewhere in the cabin, but pinpointing the exact source is tricky. Give us another hour. Rodriguez returned with airport security footage on her laptop. You need to see this. The video showed the departure gate 1 hour before Flight 227 boarded. Passengers milled around, typical pre-flight scene. Then David Reeves appeared, carrying a laptop bag. He found a seat in the waiting area and opened his laptop. 5 minutes later, Dr. Foster entered the frame. She looked directly at Reeves, walked over, and sat down beside him. They didn't speak, but Foster pulled out her own tablet. For the next 20 minutes, both of them worked on their devices, occasionally glancing at each other's screens. They're coordinating something, Rodriguez said. Look at the timing. She types, waits, he types, they both look at their screens. They're either messaging each other or working on the same project. Can we recover what they were working on? Airport Wi-Fi logs show both of them connected to the network. We're pulling their traffic data now, but it'll take time to decrypt if they were using VPNs or secure connections. The boarding footage showed both Foster and Reeves entering the plane in the same boarding group. The camera angles didn't give us a clear view of what they carried on board, but neither appeared to have anything unusual, standard carry-on bags and personal items. But appearances could be deceiving. I want Foster found, I ordered. Issue a federal warrant. She's a material witness in a potential terrorism investigation. Check her credit cards, phone records, known associates. She can't have gone far. Already on it, Rodriguez said. But Torres, if she's running, she had this planned. People with her clearance and training know how to disappear. She was right. Foster wasn't some civilian caught up in events. She was a trained scientist working on classified projects. If she wanted to vanish, she'd know how. My phone buzzed with a text from Captain Mitchell, flight data recorder analysis complete. You need to see this. Coming to you now. Mitchell arrived 15 minutes later with a USB drive and a deeply troubled expression. She plugged the drive into my laptop and pulled up flight data visualizations. We had our best aviation systems experts analyze every byte of data from the black box. Torres, the data is perfect. Too perfect. What do you mean? Real flight data always has minor irregularities, tiny fluctuations in readings, small variations in timing, sensor noise. It's normal. But this data? She pointed at the perfectly smooth curves on the screen. It's flawless. Every reading is exactly what you'd expect from a textbook perfect flight. No variations, no noise, no irregularities at all. You're saying it's fabricated? I'm saying it's either fabricated or filtered through some kind of processing system that smoothed out all natural variations. Either way, this is not raw data directly from the plane's sensors. Someone or something modified it. Could the pilots have done that? Mitchell shook her head. Not without specialized equipment and expertise far beyond pilot training. This would require someone who understands flight data systems intimately, plus the technical skills to intercept and modify the data stream in real time. Like a software engineer who works on autonomous systems. Or a physicist who understands complex technical systems. What about the plane's navigation computer that showed those mystery coordinates? I asked. That's even stranger. The coordinates appear in a separate memory cache that normally stores temporary navigation calculations. It's like someone planned to erase them but didn't quite finish the job. Or left them there deliberately as a clue. Could Foster or Reeves have accessed these systems during the flight? Not from passenger seats, no. They'd need physical access to the avionics bay or the cockpit systems. Unless, Mitchell paused, considering. Unless they brought some kind of wireless hacking device on board that could interface with the plane's systems remotely. Jennifer Park called again. Detective, we've identified the source of the data packet. It was transmitted from two devices working in tandem, one in seat 14A and one in seat 14B. Reeves and Foster's seats. Everything was coming together. Reeves and Foster had boarded Flight 227 with specialized equipment. At 3:43 a.m., they'd activated devices that interfaced with every electronic device on the plane, broadcasting a signal that disrupted the passengers' and crew's memory formation. Simultaneously, they'd hacked the plane's navigation and flight data systems. But why? What was at those mystery coordinates? What had happened during those 3 missing hours? And most importantly, where was Dr. Foster now, and what was she planning next? Rodriguez's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her face went pale. "We found Foster. Or rather, someone found her. Boston PD just discovered a body in a hotel room near the airport. Female, early 40s, matching Foster's description. Apparent suicide, pills and alcohol. She left a note. What does it say? I'm sorry. We should never have started this. It was supposed to be a test, but we've put everyone in danger. They're coming for the others now. David, run." A suicide note that was really a warning. But warning about what? Who was they? And if Foster was dead, what did that mean for Reeves and the 185 other people who'd been on that flight? My instincts told me we were running out of time. Whatever had happened during those 3 missing hours, whatever Foster and Reeves had been involved in, it wasn't over. In fact, it might just be beginning. Part 5, The Hidden Facility. Dr. Foster's hotel room was a crime scene, but one that raised more questions than answers. Boston PD had secured the area, and I'd driven up immediately with Agent Rodriguez. The room was neat, orderly, too orderly for a suicide. Pills bottles lined up perfectly on the nightstand, the suicide note typed and printed, no handwritten signature. Even Foster's body on the bed seemed arranged, positioned peacefully like she'd simply fallen asleep. This wasn't suicide, Rodriguez said, echoing my thoughts. This was staged. The medical examiner, Dr. Patricia Lynn, agreed. Preliminary tox screen shows high levels of benzodiazepines and alcohol, consistent with overdose. But there are microbruises on her upper arms, like someone held her down. And her fingernails, there's skin tissue underneath. She fought someone. How long has she been dead? 6 to 8 hours. She died around the same time she was supposed to be checking into this hotel. So Foster never checked in because she was already dead or dying. Someone had killed her, staged it as suicide, and left that cryptic warning note. But was the note actually from Foster, or from her killer? I photographed everything, including Foster's belongings. Her carry-on bag contained clothes, toiletries, and a laptop, all standard travel items. But there was something odd about the laptop. It was an older model, several years outdated for someone in her field. Bag this, I told the forensics team. I want our tech team to analyze it. Rodriguez was examining the note under different lighting. Torres, look at this. Under UV light, there's something else written on the paper. Beneath the printed text. I looked. Faint handwritten numbers appeared under the UV lamp, 42.3601 degrees north, 71.0942 degrees west. Those are coordinates, Rodriguez said, pulling up her phone's GPS. They're in Massachusetts, about 40 miles from here. Middle of nowhere according to the map, forest and rural area. Foster left us a clue. The suicide note was cover, but she managed to write these coordinates somehow before she died. She wanted us to find this location. Or her killer did, Rodriguez countered. This could be a trap. Only one way to find out. Let's get a team together. 2 hours later, we were driving through dense Massachusetts forest following GPS coordinates. The FBI had assembled a tactical team, prepared for anything from a hidden laboratory to an ambush. The coordinates led us off main roads, onto increasingly remote dirt paths, until finally we couldn't drive any further. "From here we walk," the tactical team leader, Agent Morrison, announced. "Half a mile through the woods to the exact coordinates." We hiked in full tactical gear, weapons ready. The forest was eerily quiet, no birds, no animal sounds. Just the crunch of our boots on dead leaves and the whisper of wind through bare branches. The coordinates led us to what appeared to be an abandoned facility, concrete buildings overgrown with vegetation, rusted fencing, broken windows. It looked like it had been derelict for decades. "What is this place?" Rodriguez asked. I checked the briefing file on my tablet. According to property records, this was a Cold War-era research station, decommissioned in 1987. Officially, it was used for radar testing and atmospheric studies. After decommission, the land was supposed to be returned to the state, but it's been in legal limbo for 30 years. "Perfect place to hide something," Morrison said. "Or someone." We approached cautiously. The main building's door was newer than the surrounding structure, reinforced steel with an electronic lock, completely out of place on an abandoned facility. Morrison's tech specialist examined it. "This lock is active. It's connected to power, and the security system shows recent access. Someone's been using this place." He bypassed the lock, and we entered. Inside, the contrast was shocking. The exterior might look abandoned, but the interior was a state-of-the-art facility. Computer servers hummed in climate-controlled rooms, sophisticated equipment lined the walls, and multiple workstations showed active systems. "This is a live operation," Rodriguez whispered. "But where is everyone?" We cleared the building room by room. No personnel, but clear signs of recent occupation: coffee still warm in a mug, documents scattered on desks, a half-eaten sandwich. Whoever had been here left in a hurry, probably when they saw us approaching. In what appeared to be the main control room, I found something that made my blood run cold. Multiple monitors showed surveillance feeds, not of the facility, but of people. Passengers from Flight 227. I recognized faces from my interviews. Thomas Wright at his office in Manhattan. Dr. Chen at her MIT laboratory. Kyle Martinez at his grandmother's house in London. "They're watching the passengers," I said. "All of them." Rodriguez was examining a computer workstation. "Torres, look at this. Project files. They're labeled with dates going back months. This operation has been running for a long time."